first, I'm just wondering what you think is at stake for this election.
Well, every 4 years, the candidates tell us this is the most important election of our lifetime, and this time it's true. It is. This is we are at a crossroads in America right now. That if Donald Trump is reelected, the problems that this country is going to encounter in the future, I think, are almost unimaginable. And if Joe Biden is elected, obviously I'm partisan and support that. The opportunities that we have to change course, I think, are real. So this is the stakes of this election are so high. It's really going to, be the turning point, I think, in where this country is going to go, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next decade or two.
The polls are showing Biden ahead for the most part, but we saw this movie back in 2016. So how does the former vice president avoid what happened with Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think they've already done most of what they need to do to avoid it. First of all, they paid attention to important battleground states, places like Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. They've raised resources. I mean, the president had $1 billion campaign war chest that he had built through the spring and summer, and now Biden has been out spending them massively in recent weeks and is able to take his campaign to all these other battleground states because of that. As a front runner, Vice President Biden has made very few mistakes, no big mistakes, and that's hard to accomplish. So I think, and the biggest difference is, if you looked at the profiles underneath the horse race 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton had a negative, favorable, unfavorable. More people disliked her than liked her. That's different than Biden. Even though he's under attack from Trump, because of the campaign he's run, because of the times we're in, and I think in large part because of the job the president has done not managing things like COVID, Joe Biden's favorability is much higher than his unfavorability. And that's the fundamental difference why we're not going to see a repeat, I think, of what we saw 4 years ago.
Speaking of the coronavirus, it's changed pretty much everything about how we live our lives in 2020, including how a lot of people have voted. So many people voting by mail, so many people voting early. How does that change the strategy for these campaigns?
Well, it's really important. I can tell you, in terms of the timing, I make television ads for campaigns. And when you have a campaign where people are voting 3 or 4 weeks before election day, you don't save everything for the last week, okay, when you may get those voters who are soft and undecided. So it has to do with the way you allocate your resources, the way you deploy people in your campaign, the way you target your media and your message towards different groups who vote at different times, the way you alert those voters that this is an option in terms of how to vote, and educate them in some cases, because in many states this is the first time people have been able to vote early. Here in Rhode Island, I voted the first day that you could vote on Block Island. I was the only person there, but it was great to walk in. But we've never had that opportunity here before to vote without an excuse. So so that's what you do as a campaign. You recognize that election day is not November 3rd. Election day may be October 3rd. In some places, it may have been in September, and you play to election day. And other states, in California, when we do campaigns out in California, where they've been doing this voting early for a long time, we usually front load our media buy. So we get to them before they get their ballots, because people start voting as soon as they get their ballots.
I also wanted to ask about Rhode Island as a deep blue state. Folks hear that term thrown around. Why is it that Rhode Island is so deeply Democratic?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. I think some of it is geographic. I mean, if you look at New England, the only Republican in the Congress, House and Senate, is Susan Collins, and I don't think she's going to make it by Tuesday. Okay, so this is a very Democratic region. But with Rhode Island, I think really its history has a lot to do with its political identity, going back to its origins. Roger Williams founded this state on tolerance, and I think that's a very important quality in terms of progressive politics. But more recent history, in the 20th century, you really had a division in Rhode Island between Republicans, who were Protestant for the most part and controlled the economy of the state, and Democrats, who were Catholics, okay, many of whom were immigrants, who had to fight and claw and really take back their own government from those powerful interests that controlled it. And I think that political identity that was forged here in Rhode Island by, class, culture, and religion has really made Rhode Island, a very democratic state. Although if you look deep beneath the surface of Rhode Island Democrats, I mean, it's a very big tent of Democrats. You've got very conservative Democrats in Rhode Island, and you also have very progressive Democrats. But I think, it's a party that allows all of those members to be part of it and to run for office and to succeed as Democrats.
What do you say to folks who say, okay, we're such a deep blue state, we always go Democrat in the presidential election, I don't even need to vote? What do you say to those folks?
I would say this year more than ever, everyone needs to vote. It's going to be very important to send a message, not just to Donald Trump, but to the Republican Party, who for years have been trying to divide people and for years have been trying to suppress vote, that they're not going to be able to suppress vote anywhere in this country, even in the bluest of the blue states. So I think that's really an important message, that we need participation, that we need people to be part of this process in order to send a message to interests that want to stymie people from voting, discourage them from voting. The way we take back democracy is by participating fully in it.
What are you going to be watching for on Election Day?
Well, I'm going to be watching for the results as they come out. So, for example, Kentucky usually is the first state that closes polls 7 o'clock Eastern. I don't think Joe Biden's going to win Kentucky, and I'm not sure whether Mitch McConnell's going to lose either. He's got a pretty powerful hold on the state. But if the margins in a place like Kentucky, where Trump won by something like 30 points last time, are significantly reduced, if places where he was winning, by 30 and 40 points, he's now winning by 10 points or 8 points and things like that, that's a very important first indicator that the president is losing support across the board, even in places where he enjoys enough support to win. And so I'll look at those first results, and if we start to see them. And then, of course, the big states, Florida, probably the most important, North Carolina as well, Arizona, these places that, Trump won last time, that typically are Republican states in presidential elections. But if he doesn't hold on to all three of those, he's going to lose the election.
Tad, anything else that you'd like to add, let people know, think I'm neglecting to ask?
No, I do think this election is critically important to our nation. And I think it's important, even a small state like Rhode Island, to have the participation of so many people and the opportunity to vote. I hope that the voting that we've adopted in the state, allowing people to go early and to participate more fully, is something that we do, not just in a pandemic, but we do going forward, because the more people that vote in this country, the better for all of us.